Hello everybody, it's Steve. Welcome back to Surviving Mars Below and Beyond. Today's video is a bit of a curveball. Hotfix 4 was released on Tuesday, October 10th, but I'd already recorded today's video. So I'm going to move that video down to Saturday, and for today's video, I'm going to go over Hotfix number 4 and do something that I either discussed in Monday's video or will be discussing in Saturday's video. I recorded them back to back, but I'm going to be going over the breakthroughs and I'm going to be ranking them and just letting you know which ones are my favorite. So let's go ahead and jump into Hotfix 4. And then I'll go into the tier rankings, and I've already got that set up. So, improvements. Elevator colonist cap has been increased to 250. New warning notifications when trying to launch a lander with colonists while not having a habitat on the asteroid or when the habitat does not have enough resident slots. That's a bit of an issue, especially homelessness in a asteroid. Could be a problem. A bunch of bug fixes. Look at this. This is a lot of bug fixes. Among the things being fixed, the no disasters rule, not working. The no terraforming rule, not working. Fixed disabling no below and beyond contact rule awarding Space Explorers achievement. Fixed a crash on new game starting on Mac OS. Mac OS has had a lot of issues with this. I do apologize for the Mac users out there. You guys have been kind of getting the short end with this DLC. It's been causing a lot of problems for you. Fixed a crash when sending a planetary expedition that requires an RC vehicle. Crash when a lander rocket returns to Mars with cargo containing a transporter that carries resources. Crash when requesting colonists from an asteroid. Crash after the event Rough Touchdown when drones unload the payload. Fixed a rounding error on resources, preventing the lander rocket from launching. I think that's the thing I ran into initially. Right here, I think that's the main thing I was running into. Fixed a waste rock value being incorrect during landscaping. Ho ho ho! That's a big fix. Fixed anomaly, event anomalies spawning under resource depots. Fixed the amount of surface polymers being very high. That's a glitch? No, that's good. I like having a lot of polymers on the surface. Fixed the last war event preventing the loading of cargo onto asteroid landers. Fixed not being able to send multiple drones through the elevator by right-clicking. Fixed the lander rocket request payload tooltip showing the ready status for prefabs that the player does not have. Fix the issue where the number of requested colonists gets reset to 0 in the lander rocket cargo menu. I don't think I had that problem, but the lander rocket cargo menu was a bit of a pain in the ass for everything. Fixed where one drone gets transported through the elevator when assigning multiple drones to the elevator as drone controller. Fixed maintenance getting stuck on certain buildings, the fusion reactor and electronics factory in particular. Fixed where drones were active in the drone hub extender range while the extender wasn't powered. Fixed the effect ranges remaining visible after refabbing a building. Refabbing? I haven't heard that term, refabbing. I have to look into that one. Fixed rovers leaving the lander rocket twice. Fixed the issue where multiple capital cities can be built after terraforming. Old saves will continue to contain multiple capital cities, but the option to build more is now restricted. Okay, I actually talked about this in Saturday's video. I was looking at the subreddit, and I did see somebody who had like 2 or 3 capital cities put up, and I was like, that's got to be modded. That's got to be something weird. No, it was a glitch in the game. Shocker. We have a glitch, another glitch in the game, where you could build multiple capital cities. I would have loved to have gotten a colony that far before Hotfix 4 came out, because that would have been amazing to have. Fix the RC Explorer, continuing to scan queued surface anomalies while the RC Explorer has been transported to the underground. What? Fixed the incorrect landing angle of the supply pod on a landing pad. Fixed the asteroid banner not working without the Space Race DLC. Fixed the issue with the landscape cursor does not show. Fixed the colony for being automatically renamed to missing text in the planetary view. Fixed the concrete extractor not being able to build underground at specific coordinates. Fixed domes not being built underground because drones stopped delivering resources. That's a lot of stuff. And I'm starting to think maybe, especially with some of these things I'm running into here, the surface polymers being high, waste rock values being wrong, multiple capital cities. I'm also with how this gameplay's been going and the lack of what the hell are they? The lack of research events that I've been getting on my playthrough. I'm almost starting to think maybe I should just do another reset and start over. I'm getting to that point right now because all those things that I had there wasn't. I don't think there were a lot of. I'm really thinking that I got shortchanged on the number of anomalies I got in my playthrough again, and also it's been almost Sol 100. I still haven't triggered the event. I know it's not Wildfire, because Wildfire would have come up by now. Metatron would have come up by now. I don't know what mystery that I'm running with right now. I haven't gotten anything, and I'm starting to wonder if that's broken as well, just by picking a random one. Let's go down into the comments here. Let's see. Nils Fabian, asteroid lander still not returning from an asteroid. That's first rainfall milestone still not completed. I got some folks going back and back with that. Sheep Maiden, probably going to go with my route. She's going to start a new game, just test this. Apparently it's also hasn't been fixed. My Little Pony. That's a great name, Second Lieutenant. It's weird the expansion was live at all, consider it broke. They should have waited with it. It was so ready to play when it came out. Now it mostly ruined my whole experience of the game. The right thing to do would be to roll back to when it's crisp and well working while they fix the expansion issues in-house. They are still not done. There's still problems preventing from having an enjoyable time. Congrats to them for the fixes far, but off of yeah. I'm kind of with My Little Pony in this, because it does seem like there's a lot of issues here. So yeah, we'll go ahead. I'll have Saturday's video still come out, and I'm gonna be thinking over the weekend, maybe I just want to restart, maybe actually go to that spot that I was looking at in sectors like D3, D4, C3, that one spot that was just to the bottom right of the plateau, where there was like 5 rare metals deposits, some regular metals deposits, and also some water. That spot right there may actually be a good spot for a mining colony, just to get those resources built up. I think it'd be a heck of a lot better spot to be working at than where I'm at now. Alright, so we're done with this section for now. Let's go over into Tier Maker and have some fun times going over the breakthroughs. You have the S tier, amazing in every breakthrough. You have the A tier, good in every playthrough. B tier, good but situational. C, decent but situational. D tier, very limited use. And the F tier, not worth the research points. Pretty important to break these down, I think, just because there's 61 breakthroughs in this game. And when you get a bunch of breakthroughs, you kind of figure like, okay, what do I want to go for first? Hopefully this list is going to help you out. We're going to start off alphabetically, of course, the advanced drone drive. Drones move 50% faster. I don't use this one that often. I really don't. I've gotten it maybe a couple of times. It's not something I really beeline for. If you have a bunch of drones, then them moving that much faster may not be that much of a help to you. It's just gonna be there. They'll be available for you. Especially if it's a high cost breakthrough, I'd almost ignore it until you have a bunch of other stuff researched, or you have some extra research just kind of sitting there and you want to just knock it out really quick. I wouldn't waste a bunch of time trying to get this done when there's other breakthroughs to be researched or other technologies that need to be researched. Alien Imprints uncovers new anomalies, alien artifacts, which provide a boost to all research when scanned. I'll put this one as good in every playthrough. It's borderline S tier. Reason being, when you unlock this one, when you research it, you get a bunch of anomalies on the map. Each one of those scanned reduce the cost of all technologies by 3%, and you can get up to 12 of them. I think the max I've gotten is 10, but according to the Wikipedia, you can get up to 12 of them. So if you get 10 of them times 3, 30% discount. Combined with other things you can get throughout the map, you could be getting up to 40, or if you have 12, 46% discount on all of your research, including on breakthroughs, which is very, very helpful. Next up, you have the ancient terraforming device, instantly gain 20% in all terraforming parameters. This is good, but it is situational. And I say it's situational because some folks don't play on the terraforming playthrough. You're just playing a regular game, and you're not really like, okay, this doesn't help me all that much. If you are playing as a terraforming on a terraforming map, it's super, super helpful because, hey, look, I can knock everything up by 20%, especially if you've already got your forestation up to 40% and you're just waiting for all of those seed vegetation missions to come around, which can take freaking forever. Then this will kick it up to 60% and get you that much closer to the full terraforming mission. Artificial muscles. Drones carry 2 resources at once. Absolutely S tier. Getting this will help you so quickly in getting everything researched, getting everything done, and when you need to build stuff, when you need to move things very quickly, artificial muscles will help you get there very, very quickly. Next up, we have autonomous hubs. Drone hubs no longer require power or maintenance. They are researched by default when you're playing as the inventor. This one is... I initially put this down as a B tier, because I've done this one twice now. I think that's A tier, actually. It's good every time you get it. It saves a little bit on power, it saves a little bit on maintenance, but I can also see why I put it in the B tier, because if you're at a late point in the game and you get this one, then you don't need to worry about maintenance. You don't need to worry about power. You have an excess of both, and you probably have some electronic stockpiled somewhere. So early game, it's great. Late game, it's not the greatest thing out there, but it is still pretty dang good. Cloning, though, is not pretty dang good. In fact, it's pretty bad. Cloning vats creates clones over time. Clone colonists grow and age twice as fast. I do not like this one at all. I've gotten it maybe twice, and it's not something I go for. It's one of the lowest things on my priority list. In fact, I think I research everything else, and then I circle back, and I go for the cloning vats. It just doesn't appeal to me. Plus, if you get biorobots, which is mentioned, which I'm going to have on here a little bit later, and the Project Phoenix, those are both really good, and you can get them in. You can just keep the traits that your people have, plus they're not growing and aging twice as fast. They're going at the same speed. Biorobots, they don't age at all, which is kind of kick-ass. Next up, you have the construction nanites. Buildings construct themselves slowly. Without drones, nanites will seek out resources from nearby depots. This is good in every playthrough, but there is an asterisk with this one. One of my previous playthroughs, I did get this breakthrough, and then a couple episodes later, I got nanite storms. So much so, it was ripping my colony apart. I had to go back about 4 videos to a point where my colony had not been destroyed, and essentially continue the gameplay from there. I almost had to scrub the entire colony because the nanites were just ripping everything apart. It was not fun to deal with at all. Speaking of not fun to deal with, core metals, core rare metals, and core water. All 3 go into the F tier for me, because if you research these, especially in the early game, and you don't have deep metal extraction or deep water extraction, you then have to research another technology just to get these things done. Another reason I don't like it, 1,000 metals, 1,000 rare metals, 100,000 water. That's it from a breakthrough that could cost 20,000 research. I can do scanning and find that stuff a little bit easier. I don't like these ones at all. If it was like 10,000 metal, 10,000 rare metal, 1 million water, yeah, I could probably be talking a little bit more about them, but I just think they're objectively awful, especially if you get them as a late game breakthrough. You're probably swearing at your game a little bit too. Next up, you have the cryo sleep. Passenger rockets can carry 20 more colonists. Let's put that in the C tier. It's decent, but of course it is situational. It's good if you're bringing up folks in the late game, or if you get this as a very early game thing. But if you're playing the last arc, where you just get 1 rocket of colonists, and you already brought them up, and you then get this breakthrough, it's worthless. If you get it before then, it is actually decent to have, so you can bring up more folks to hopefully get more Martian borns that quicker, and also you can fill the buildings that you have needing workers right out of the gate if you have cryo sleep and you're bringing folks down. Next up, we have designed forestation. Newly grown forests have a chance to spawn vistas and research sites. If you're playing as a geoengineer, this is automatically researched for you, and I'm going to put that in the B tier. It is good, but of course it is situational. If you're not playing as a geoengineer, then you kind of need to get this one to get the vistas and the research sites going. If you're playing as a geoengineer, it is pretty dang good, but it takes a while to get to forests, and if you've already got your colony laid out, then these vistas and research sites may not be spawning near your domes, and you have to go ahead and build new stuff further along. It's a little bit of a pain if you don't have these things right there, but if you're doing a robot colony like I did in terraforming the planet, where you bring folks down and you have this breakthrough, then suddenly like, oh cool, I can go ahead and put these domes exactly where all these vistas are, where all these research sites are. And I think it's really cool for folks. Dome streamlining is very, very good in the early game. I think it's even good in the late game too. I don't want to say it's amazing, just because I know there's some stuff up here that's really amazing, and it's even better than dome streamlining. This one will cut the cost for the basic resources by 50% when building domes. It's very helpful. Early game, it's amazing. Late game, it starts to kind of wane a little bit, because by then you probably have a good production of metals, you probably have a good production of concrete. If you have the extractor and the mole hole mine, then you have almost infinite supply of both of them. You may not need to use the dome streamlining, but it'll also allow you to trade those resources in the early game while you're building your domes for the same amount, or for half of those resources. Next up, dry farming. Water requirements of food is reduced by 50%. I very seldom go for this one. I don't think it's one I immediately go for every single time. It is helpful, of course, in the early game where you are trying to produce food, but you have a water crunch. You're just maybe using vaporators to keep your colony afloat and just praying that you don't get a dust storm. This is very helpful for that, but for me, it's very limited on how often I use it. Next up, Eternal Fusion. This is the upgrade to fusion reactors no longer require workers and operate at 150 performance. This is good in every playthrough. I love this one. It is amazing to have. You put this down with a couple of turboelectric scrubbers and suddenly you have a few fusion reactors pumping out as much energy, if not more, than an artificial sun. And the artificial sun, remember, does take a full 1,000 water just to get up and running. Next up, my absolute favorite, you know where this one's going, Extractor AI, S tier. Metals and rare metals extractors can work without crews and at 50 performance. This will let you build those mining outposts that you see me play with, and it's super, super helpful if you don't have a lot of colonists. You need them to be working in factories producing materials. You can build these extractors, you can build your extractors and not have to worry about them. Next up, we have factory automation. Lowers the amount of workers needed in factories. It's definitely good, but it is situational. In the late game where you have a bunch of folks and you kind of need them to be working somewhere and you don't want to have them just in the workshops, that's exactly what you can do with it. You can turn off factory automation. I think you can do that. And then suddenly you have workers. It's good in the early game where you don't have a lot of folks filling these roles, but in the late game, it's not really needed. If it was like kind of like Extractor AI where they work by themselves, then it'd be even better. Unfortunately, they're not, so it's good. I don't think it's great though. This one as well, Forever Young. Seniors can work and have children. It's going to go right next to factory automation. It's very helpful when you're in the early stages of a colony where you have folks that are middle-aged. They came up to the colony as a founder in their middle age, but boom, they're suddenly aging out of the workforce. Forever Young will put them back into the workforce so they can help have more kids and help grow the colony before they pass away. I do like that one. In the late game, though, when you have a bunch of colonists and they're cranking out kids and you have overpopulation problems, it's like, okay, guys, can you just wrap it up? Just don't have as much sex, maybe. Then you have to worry about it a little bit with that one. Early game, I love it. Late game, it kind of starts to lose its effectiveness. Frictionless composites. Wind turbines power increased by 100%. That's going to go right next to Eternal Fusion. This one is great to have, especially if you're going with a lot of wind turbines and knocking up that power by an extra 100%, doubling that power. If you're doing a high plateau of wind farms like I did in my max difficulty robot colony, that's a great place to have frictionless composites where all of those wind turbines I'd built up were operating at, base of 20% because it was at a high elevation. Suddenly it's going at 20 power to start off for the large wind turbines, and suddenly they're cranking out 40 power without doing the polymer blades upgrade. That's a lot of electricity you're cranking out just with those frictionless composites. Next up, we have the gem architecture. Absolutely S tier. It is a dual spire dome in the shape of a little diamond. You can pretty much build a few of these almost anywhere on the map. They're almost all self-sufficient with the amount of space you have in them. It makes things very, very helpful if you want to have a few self-sufficient domes out, maybe as a mining colony if you don't have Extractor AI and you just want to have something isolated where you just have miners working. That's a great thing to have with that as well. Next up, we have gene selection. Doubles the chance that a colonist will have or gain a rare trait. That's D tier for me, actually, because with Project Morpheus, you can get those rare traits from that thing. This is not very good, I think, in the late game. In the early game, it's not even one I go for. I kind of just like, whatever, next. There's other things that I need to be researching ahead of this one. So this one pops up, I'm like, all right, fine. What else is on? Giant crops. This one, I do like this one, but when I play, I usually do terraforming, and the outside crops do a heck of a lot better than the crops that are in the farming triangles inside the dome. So it's going to be CE tier for me. They're decent, but it's definitely situational. If I'm not playing with terraforming, I absolutely need this one, but I usually play as terraforming, so it's not really something I need. Getting giant apple trees, giant corn, that is very helpful for the increased food output, but for me, it's not something, again, I don't beeline for it, so I'm kind of like meh about it. This one, I'm also meh about. Good vibrations, domes restore sanity to their inhabitants every soul. It's C tier for me because this one I almost always get in the late game, and I've usually got enough things in the dome to keep the colonists healthy at that point, so I'm not really worried about them freaking out or losing their minds a little bit during disasters, because they can just go to the space bar, they can go to the casino, they can go to a park and just meditate and not worry about what's going on outside. And the sanity probably staying up at that point. I'm not worried about them losing their sanity over the disasters outside. Next one up, Hivemind. Residents in their ecology get a bonus to work performance based on the number of unique perks and specializations of the colonists living in the ecology. This one's good, but it is definitely situational if you don't have a lot of ecologies. If you are using the network nodes, if you're using any of the other spires. Plus, I haven't even built a school spire yet in my Rio playthrough. That's going to take up a space in this that I would love to have. But if you do have a lot of ecologies, it's absolutely very good. If you're trying to go, for some reason, doing a playthrough without any spires, then this is definitely something you would not need to get your hands on. Hull polarization is absolutely something you need to get your hands on, though. This one, buildings require maintenance less often. Very good to have, especially when you're low on materials. If you want it in the early stages of your colony, maintenance will kill you if you're not producing enough materials, and this will help just keep things from getting out of control that much faster. Next up, hypersensitive photovoltaics. Solar panels and large solar panel production increased by 100%. That's going to go right up here with frictionless composites and eternal fusion. All the power things, all the power bonuses, they're good to have in every playthrough. Borderline amazing to have in every playthrough, but it also kind of depends on what your playstyle is. If you have a lot of solar panels, but you get frictionless composites, it doesn't really work for you. If you play with a lot of wind power, but get hypersensitive photovoltaics, it's not really, matching up with your playstyle. These ones all together, I think they're good to have in every playthrough. Almost great to have in every playthrough, but I don't want to say they're amazing to have in the playthroughs. I love having them, don't get me wrong. It's just something I'm like, I'd love to get them. I know I can take advantage of each of these three. I know this one would be good around the artificial sun. This would be good with some scrubbers. This would be good on a plateau. I would know how to do it, and I think if you get these ones, adjust your playstyle a little bit, get the power, kind of like lean into whichever one of these breakthroughs you have. When you get these breakthroughs, kind of adjust your power situation to take advantage of these. Next up, inspiring architecture. Colonists and domes of the Spire have increased morale. That's good, but I'd almost call this one situational, because if you're doing a lot of microdomes, barrel domes, underground domes, I don't think underground domes can have arcologies for below and beyond. This is good, but I don't think I've ever gotten this one. 250 plus hours in this game. I don't think I've ever gotten this one. So I'd love to get this one in a future playthrough. I think it'd be kind of fun, because most of my domes, I don't do a lot of barrel domes. I do a lot of the basic domes, the trigons, the mega domes, and the oval domes and the gem domes, or the diamond domes if I can get them. These two combined, pretty cool, but I'm going to leave it in B tier for right now just because I don't know much about it. Next up, interplanetary learning. Schools can train the workaholic and hippie traits. No. You can absolutely get that through Project Morpheus. This one, it's kind of like when I get these ones and this one, it's my same reaction. What the hell, game? What are you trying to do to me? I do not like. Next up, lake vaporators. Lake pumps are self-sufficient and no longer need to be supplied with water. If you saw my max difficulty robot colony, you'd know that's going up here. You can build giant lakes anywhere on the map, not have to worry about them being supplied with 10 water for the biggest lakes. You can build 10 of them. Boom. That's 100 water you're not providing to these lakes, and you're kicking up the moisture content of Mars, and it's amazing to get your hands on. Next up is one I've not encountered before. This one is called Landscaping Nanites. Landscaping projects progress without the need of drones and are generally faster. I've never seen that one before. I'm going to guess put it in B tier. It's definitely situational, much like the alien artifacts. The lake vaporators I did put up here away from the other terraforming exclusive ones, just because this is just, if you get this one in one of these playthroughs, it's absolutely great to have. These ones, they're good to have, but it is of course a situation of, are you playing on a terraforming map? This one, if you get it, just go nuts with it. Next one up is magnetic extraction. I got this one in the current playthrough I'm doing right now. Production increased by 50%. I'm not using it though. I'm also very unhappy with the map I'm playing on right now, but this one I don't think is the bee's knees. I wasn't super enthused with how it was working for me, so I'm just going to kind of leave it in the D tier. Combined with nano refinement, which is this one, I think they'd be going pretty well together, but for right now it's in the D tier for me. Next up we have the subreddit put these all out of order. This one's Martian-born Ingenuity. Martian-borns gain plus 10 performance. I'd say that's pretty good to have in a playthrough. In the late game, you have a lot of Martian-borns. I do think it's a good idea to give them all the boosts they have, especially if you have where they're all happy, they're sane, they're in a dome that they're very comfortable in, and that extra 10 boost is very good to have at all times, even if they're working in the wrong specialization too. Next up, Martian diet. Colonists consume 25% less food. That's kind of limited for me. I'm pretty good at producing food in the map. I have very seldom had problems with food production in the game, but even with this one, it's like I just start building up a stockpile of food and just lets you trade it that much faster. But again, it doesn't really jump out as, oh, you need to get this thing right away. Martian steel, I do think you need to get your hands on, and it is pretty good to have in every playthrough. It lowers the construction costs and lowers metal costs in buildings by 25%. That's pretty good to have. Again, especially if you're on a map with very low metals deposits, it is very, very good. If you're on a map that has a lot of metals, you can trade it. You can trade those extra metals, and it's kind of use this with dome streamlining, because these two will stack on each other. Kind of helpful for that as well. Next up, the oval dome, multi-spiral architecture, an elongated dome with space for 2 spires. The oval dome is essentially 2 megadomes that are just pushed together. It really is, and I love the multi-spiral architecture. I love the oval domes every time I get it. You saw that in the Rio playthrough. I beelined for it, and I absolutely love that one. That's going to go in the S tier, along with nano refinement. Nano refinement, all extractors continue to extract small amounts when their deposit is depleted. Nano refinement, stacked with extractor AI, and stacked with magnetic extraction, these 3 are a great triumvirate of just producing materials. I'm not going to have to worry about that for water, but magnetic extraction and nano refinement for water, for concrete, for metals, for rare metals, very, very helpful to get your hands on. This next one, ooh, Neo Concrete. Dome concrete costs reduced by 80%. I'd say that's amazing in every playthrough, but I've not played on a map that has low concrete. So that's going to be A tier for me. It's a wonderful thing to have. It's great to have, but I don't have a great thing. It's good then amazing. So A tier is really just kind of like, these are great to have. These are like good to have almost at this point. But the Neo Concrete, I absolutely love this one. I do like getting my hands on it when it comes up, especially in the early game where you're trying to build a bunch of domes, you're trying to get space for colonists, then that really comes into handy. The only thing I haven't tested Neo Concrete on is the capital city. I don't think that one, it does apply to it because the capital city is not technically a dome, but if you're building a bunch of domes around it like I did in my MDRC playthrough, then you may end up needing that one. Next up, Neural Empathy. Unlocks the rare trait of empaths. Empaths raise the morale of all colonists in the dome, affects stacks with other empaths. I don't remember using this one a lot. I'm just going to kind of put it in the D tier. I don't use it that often. If you get it, good. It just isn't one I really go for out of the gate. Next up, Nocturnal Adaptation. All colonists gain 20% gain plus 20 performance during night shifts. You can tell I'm still waking up today. That's going to be in my C tier. It's not something I beeline for, but in the late game, it is decent to have, especially, again, when you need colonists working in structures. Boom. That's where Nocturnal Adaptation comes in. It goes into the C tier. You can fill up all your buildings, and you have people work during the overnight. And it's going to stack well with another one of these breakthroughs that I'll get to here in just a moment. Next up, Overcharge Amplifications. Amplify upgrades grant a bigger boost to production. I don't use Amplify that much. I really don't. It's just something that's just like, Amplify, whatever. I usually want to keep my power available in case there's a disaster or in case some maintenance happens and suddenly I'm drawn from the batteries. Next up, we have the Plasma Rocket. The rocket travel time to and from Earth reduced by 50%. If the long ride rule is in effect, it reduces travel time from 75 hours to 63 hours. This is decent, but of course situational. Especially if you're doing the long ride. Definitely a situation where it's going to be very good to have, but if you don't have the long ride going and it's just very quick trips back and forth, it's not a huge critical issue unless you're trying to export stuff in a very timely fashion, like maybe trying to end the last war event or wrapping up Wildfire. I was going to say Marsgate for some reason. So for this one, very helpful to get your hands on. It's just something that you may not need all of the time. Similar with this one, this is Plutonium Synthesis, a Stirling generator upgrade that increases power production whilst open. If you use Stirling gens, that's great. They're a good early game building, but once you get into fusion reactors, artificial suns, vast amounts of producing solar and wind power, the Stirling gen starts to fall off a little bit for me. And I have done playthroughs where I put down a microdome and also just slap down a bunch of Stirling gens inside it to keep them protected and produce a lot of power. That's where it comes into a lot of help. But for me, though, I think I've gotten this maybe twice. I don't beeline for it, though. It's helpful to have, but it does cost a bit to upgrade the Stirling gen, too. Next up, another one of my least favorite ones. This is Prefab Compression. All spires can be ordered as prefabs from Earth. Usually, if I'm at a point where I'm building prefabs, or building spires, I should say, I've got the resources on the planet to build them myself. I don't need to get them from Earth. And it's just taking up space on a cargo rocket that could be devoted to electronics, could be devoted to machine parts, could be devoted to other prefabs. Moisture vaporators, love to get my hands on those, and those take a lot more research to get than most of the prefabs. So I usually ignore this one. It's at the very bottom of the list. Unlike this one, Printed Electronics, absolutely S tier. Allows drone prefabs to be constructed using the drone assembler using metals instead of electronics. This is a great breakthrough if you can get your hands on it. If you're playing on a map with a lot of metals, then, oh look, you can just crank out drones. You can have your drone hubs that can hold 100 drones, operating with 100 drones. And you're not spending a bunch of electronics in a drone assembler to get them, which also means you're spending rare metals that are being mined. You're just collecting metals and just dumping them right into here to crank out more drones. I absolutely love this one. Next up, Project Phoenix. When a colonist dies, there's a 50% chance he or she is reconstructed as a youth with the same traits. This is definitely good, but it is, of course, situational. If you have a colony that is overpopulated, then you may not want to have Project Phoenix. You may want to have something different going with it. But for a small colony and having a colonist with a bunch of traits being reconstructed as a child and getting more traits as they grow up is amazing. And I do like having that one. Again, it's situational. Early game, small colonies, yes. Big colonies, overpopulation, not that great. Rapid sleep is very good, and it's going to go in the A tier for me. Colonists need to sleep for only 1 hour and regain twice as much sanity when sleeping. That's quite helpful, I think. Especially when you have a lot of colonists, you need a lot of work going on. They can just like, okay, crash, and I'm up and going again. I'll absolutely love that one. This next one is called Resilient Vegetation. Halves the water and temperature needs for grass, bushes, trees, and open farm crops. This one is absolutely S tier because in a terraforming playthrough, For the trees, mixed trees, you need to get 75%, 75% temperature and water. This breaks it down to 37.5 for each. This makes it easier to get to corn in the open farm crops, which means you now have essentially infinite food. If you get this one in play, it's absolutely worth getting it. Safe mode. Next one is, let me read the notes here on this one. When a colonist suffers a sanity breakdown, they fall asleep and wake up after 6 hours with 70 sanity. Colonists cannot commit suicide or gain flaws due to a sanity breakdown. That's going to go in my A tier. Very, very helpful if you have a lot of disasters going on. And also, when you do have a colonist commit suicide, it does remove more colonists from the applicant pool, because word gets back to Earth that somebody killed themselves on the planet. They're wondering, oh man, what is going on up on Mars? I don't want to go up there. It does actually keep the colonist, it keeps the applicant pool available for you. Next up, service bots. Non-medical service buildings upgrades no longer requires workers and operates at 100 performance, 10 electronics per. It is S tier. If your plane is America and you can put this in the Mega Mall, yes, you can. It's very, very helpful to have those service bots in the mega malls. It's helpful to have them in the low G amusement parks. And like I said, non-medical service buildings. You can put it's going to cost you a lot of electronics, but it's also going to free up other workers to put them in maybe electronics factories, to put them in the extractors outside, to keep the folks working in things that'll help build the colony up while the robots are taking care of them while they're off the clock. Next up, Soylent Green. Bodies of dead colonists are converted to food. One food is dropped where a colonist dies. I get this one is kitschy, it's fun, it's an homage to the movie, but it's not worth the research points. Really, you're going to spend 7,000 research so that when each of your 100 colonists dies, they're going to drop one food? It's not worth it, folks. You can definitely get something else, and maybe once you get everything else researched, go ahead and get it, but I would not waste your time on that one until you have everything else researched. This next one, space rehabilitation. Colonists have a 50% chance to lose a flaw on their journey to Mars. I have the cryopods down here as decent but situational. This one is actually good but situational because, yeah, getting a colonist to lose a flaw on the way up is great, but if you're doing the last Ark playthrough and you're only getting one rocket and this comes up late, then it's kind of useless to you. Very similar to how cryosleep is. If you are bringing up more and more colonists from Earth, and you can start going into the folks that have flaws, and you don't need to put them maybe into a sanatorium to get rid of those flaws. Sanatoriums, of course, are amazing. I absolutely love them. But for this one, it's good, but it is still that situational stuff. This next one is called superconducting computing. Converts unused power into research points. The first unused 500 power is converted into 1.5 research each. Any unused power beyond 500 is converted into 0.375 research each. This is borderline A tier, S tier, because this is good to have, but it's once you get to that 500, above that 500, it starts to fall off a little bit. If you can get a colony and you're producing about 400 to 600 extra power at all times, that goes into the S tier, but I'm going to leave it in the A tier. I love having this one, especially because you get this unlocked, and then all that extra power is just helping you research everything else that much faster. If you can get this in the early game, it's good to have, almost amazing to have, but look at what I've got in the S tier right now. That's a hard group to break into. Next up, Super Fungus. A fungal farm upgrade increases production while increasing oxygen consumption. I don't build fungal farms. I don't build them, so it's F tier. It's not worth the research points for me. They're fun to have, they're kind of kitschy, but you've got farms, you've got the ranches, you've got the open farms. This is not worth your time. Next two, these are both automatically S tier. Superior cables, superior pipes. Instant and free power cable and pipe constructions. Power cables do not suffer from power faults, and pipes don't suffer from leaks. They are separate. They're two different breakthroughs. If you can get them both in a playthrough, you are fine. Don't worry about anything happening. You can lay out all the cables you need. You can throw down all the pipes you need to connect everything. The only thing you have to worry about maybe is going around like uneven surface on Mars, and that's where you get a dozer and they plow everything down for you. It's fine. Next up, sustained workload. Doubles the performance of colonists when they're working on a heavy workload. This is good, but it is situational. If you have a bunch of colonists and you're producing a bunch of stuff, you don't need to have them on a heavy workload. If you do need them on a heavy workload, then it's good, but again, it's that situational thing that I keep in mind for it. Next up, the positronic brain. This is why I don't like cloning, because if you get the positronic brain, it allows the construction of biorobots in the drone assembler. Biorobots will eat, sleep, and can gain traits, but they can't reproduce and never die from old age. This is good, but it's that situational of, if you have a lot of colonists already, do you need to build biorobots? Just something to think about there. I have not tested the positronic brain with printed electronics. One day I hope to, because I'd love to see if this would actually just take 5 metals instead of electronics. I think they may not stack with each other, but I'm willing to try it out and see what's going on with it. Next up, the vector pump. It's a moisture vaporator upgrade, increasing water production by 100%. That's going to go with the upgrades for the fusion reactor, the wind turbine, and the solar panels. All 3 of these are good to have in every playthrough, borderline great. Once you get to a point where you're building vaporators on Mars, you don't have to worry about water. Early game, this is good. This is great to have. I don't think it's the bee's knees. You have to have it because, again, at a certain point, your colony is thriving and you don't need to worry about having all these extra things going. Almost to the end here, vocation-oriented society colonists gain 10 bonus work performance and all their stats are in the green. This is decent. In the late game, it just kind of falls off a little bit. I do like this one, but it's just like, in the later game, especially when you have them in workshops, do you really need them to have a plus 10 work performance in a workshop? Not really. Second to lastly, we have wireless power. Recharge station service drones in a 3 hex range instantly. I do not use this one that often because I don't build recharge stations. Usually they just go right back to the hub, they power up, they head back out. If you do have recharge stations throughout your map, absolutely, these are totally worth it. For me though, I don't use them that often, so it's kind of a meh thing for me. Okay, now we're on the last one. Zero space computing. Research lab and Hawking Institute upgrade. Research points production increased by 25%. To upgrade the research lab, it's 5 electronics. To upgrade the Hawking Institute, it's 10 electronics. This is actually good in every playthrough. Getting more research is always good. Extra research is amazing to have, especially in the early game, and you have a research lab, and then when you get that Hawking Institute, suddenly like, oh yeah, sweet, I have 500 research coming out of these super smart folks that are coming in my Hawking Institute. Oh, kick that up by 25%. It's 625 now that you're getting. When you stack it on with this, with a superconducting computing, suddenly you're cranking out that research and you're able to get things done that much faster. That's it. That's my list. I do like where I've got most of these things. There's a few that I could probably like maybe move up from the A tier to the S tier and move things around a little bit. There's some that I was like, I just like put everything in S tier. Nah, I gotta balance it out a little bit. But these ones down here, I get angry when I get them. These ones up here, I'm like, yes, you get the nut button for that. Even some of these in here, especially alien imprints. I'm still thinking about maybe moving alien imprints up to the top, up to the S tier. But I think it's good in every playthrough. It's just that. Yeah, it's going up. I'll move it up. I'll move the alien imprints to the up. It is amazing to get your hands on because it makes all these other things cheaper. It makes everything else cheaper if you get the alien imprints. So again, that's my list now. Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree with my list? Let me know in the comments section. Today's video for Surviving Mars, of course, going to be coming out on Saturday. Special video for that. And of course, I'll be analyzing whether or not I'm going to keep going with the Rio mining group or if I'm going to go into a different... I'm going to be trying that again with a different playthrough, maybe restarting on a new map, starting with next week's videos. But for now, like, comment, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and all the videos that come out on this channel. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.